Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Business and Investments in Ukraine. I am Mike Wilson, brought to you by Andesite Blue and Toloka Studio, our producer, and we really appreciate them for allowing us to be on the air and to bring the message to you. We've been talking a lot back and forth, really, about businesses and about the events in Ukraine, the war, humanitarian aids, and we're not really going to get off of that part of the program right now because of what's going on. Last night we received more attacks in Kyiv, and so this is just something that's very important that we continue to get the message out, and we really appreciate the people who are involved and getting help. And my guest also is here from America. His name is Michael also, and he will be we'll be talking about why he's here in Ukraine and what he plans to do and how he's looking to help and be involved with a humanitarian side and the NGOs and volunteer groups. And he's fallen in love with Ukraine and Kyiv. So it's going to be a really nice conversation. But I'm also going to be talking a lot of business this evening with you. This is such, it's hard to say, unless you're really living here, how ripe the opportunity is right now. It's when a tree is full of fruit and the branches are hanging low because of fruit, there's just so much on there, and it's just ready to be picked because they're just ripe and ready. And that's kind of where we are in investments in Ukraine, and we're just really, with that anticipation of victory right around the corner, can feel, along with the investors, of just ready to write the checks, and put that money right into Ukraine and to start rebuilding it, and not just rebuilding it. I mean, this is going to be a mega center of the world, and we're really excited to be here for that. And Michael, he's been here for about 3 weeks, and he's really, his eyes are being opened in ways that he's never thought possible. And I'll let him talk to you and let him explain that to you. But I've really enjoyed Michael. I've known him now for 2 weeks. And we hit it off really well, so it's nice. Even being on different sides of the aisle, we get along great. Not like a lot of other people, but it's been nice. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce you to Michael Murphy. So Michael, thank you for joining us and coming this evening, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation tonight. So give us a little background and tell us who you are.
Well, first, Mike, I want to thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
I appreciate the opportunity, and any opportunity to talk to you is a great opportunity.
It's been nice.
It's good shit, man. But in terms of me and my background, it's really not all that interesting. I mean, I had a pretty mediocre academic career.
Okay.
And then I had 2 or more businesses go broke. And then I spent 27 years in the technology business.
Okay.
And again, a pretty mediocre career, frankly. And I'm not that interesting a subject. But what I think is a much more interesting subject is the question that Anna the Planet asked the other night at your English Speakers Roundtable.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Uh-huh.
There was a woman there by the name of Anna, and we were having a conversation about the future of Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about what's happening in the world today, the conversation that I'd love to have is what we think the future of Ukraine really looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You talk about mega development.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that any other country in Europe is positioned for phenomenal growth in the next 30 years the way that this country is.
Correct.
Once this war is done and there is a territorial reunification, once Ukraine is whole again and Moscovia has been pushed out,
mm-hmm.
I think that the opportunities here are unparalleled.
The opportunities are hard to explain, and even for the citizens of Ukraine.
True, especially.
There's really only about 20% of the population that really thinks entrepreneurially. Everybody else gets their education, and they just really want to work. They don't really want to have to think about building a business. They just are satisfied to exercise their skills.
Mm-hmm.
And which part of the IT technology sector was what you did. You just exercised a knowledge and a skill, and it was a comfort zone for you. And that's absolutely perfect. But what's great about that growth, what you're talking about, the growth that we're looking here in Ukraine, is the opportunities that it brings for the middle class.
Oh, yeah.
It gives that real support, and it gives that security of life. You know, what is the motto of the United States? Life, liberty, and happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the pursuit.
The pursuit of happiness.
Yeah,
There's no guarantees
right.
of happiness.
It's not
just the right to pursue it.
Right. And that is the dream. That's the American dream, and that's what we have been born into.
Mm-hmm.
And Ukraine fights for to have that, because they do think entrepreneurially. They do think a higher education. They don't think, say we're going to, I don't know if I'm going to go to university or college. They just go from high school to university. It's just like school never stopped, and they get their degree. And very, very intelligent people here, very intelligent young people, and middle-aged people are just amazing with their degrees. I mean, it's like, oh, you blow me away.
Just look at the history, right? In 1670, when there was not an academy in Moscow, not a single one, you had, I apologize, the name of the city is tough. Chernihiv, right? You had Lazar in Chernihiv writing some interesting doctrine. And then you had the universities in Kyiv. You had centers of education and learning. Right? There is a history of scholarship in this nation that is unparalleled by our eastern neighbor.
Yes.
And that scholarship shows, when you look at the number of schools, the Polytechnic right here, and just the fact that I'm having so much trouble learning Ukrainian because everyone I talk to wants to practice their English on me.
Exactly. That's
Guys, come on, help me out here.
They're willing to help, but they really do want to improve their English. They understand that it's their international language,
right?
And it gives them the freedom to expand their own endeavors and also travel around the world.
Yep.
So that is the one, and so they are hungry for that English language. But they tease me because I've lived here for 4 years. And I probably know 20 words, maybe 50 if I'm lucky, but I can't put a sentence together, except for Jak sprave. That's the only sentence I can put together, which
what
means,
does it mean?
How are you?
Oh, that's a good one. I should
Dobre,
get that
dobre
one.
is the answer. Dobre meaning good.
Good, okay.
Yeah, so. But so that's the only sentence I can put together. I can't even ask for a beer. I just say piva, but I don't or pivo. I don't say.
May I have a beer?
Yeah, may I have a beer? So I don't even know how to say that. So, but. Anyway, that educational part. So I went to the museum in Mykolaiv, and they had two museums there. They had the Museum of Navy, and they had the Museum of History. Both of them were fascinating. The Mykolaiv was the largest naval shipbuilding port in the world for a season, and but their history museum that I went to, they had artifacts there that were 5,000 years old, and they showed kind of the lifestyles of the citizens of those times in 5,000 years ago. This is before Ukraine's a nation. I mean, this is just the existence of people.
Prehistory, archaeology.
Right. And but when you saw the buildings that they lived in, that they made, and you saw the tools that they made, this is artifacts that they dug up. When you saw that, I said, this is a progressive nation. It's just like something about Ukraine was always just so progressive. Now, Ukraine has fought all of his existence back and forth and being invaded and being taken over and and fighting back, and just the people are very peaceful, very loving people, and they're lovers, not fighters, but when they're forced to fight, they'll fight. They fight
clearly,
and they take care of business, which I'm very thankful for our military and for doing the business at hand. But overall, they just love to live a peaceful life, have a family, raise their children, enjoy life, and and be secure.
So that has, in the current situation, that's all been taken away. And to go back to Anna's question,
yes,
right, about the future of Ukraine.
Right.
The question becomes then, Michael, how do we ensure the security of Ukraine so that the kind of development, the kind of mega evolution that can happen here in the most fertile soil in Europe,
in the world, actually, it's been recognized. Yes,
I was speaking metaphorically.
Yes,
but yes, literally, you're right.
Yeah.
Literally, you're right. How do we ensure that that happens? And I have to tell you, I think it's my opinion that Ukraine is uniquely positioned among all of the former Soviet republics to lead us and the former Soviet republics into a new world. A world in which Russia is hedged,
Correct.
right?
And the borders are secure.
The borders are secure, right? After this war is done, when Ukraine has won decisively and reintegrated its full territorial integrity, Ukraine will be uniquely situated to show countries like Georgia the way to recapture
Correct.
the 20% of their lands.
Romania and many other those countries, yes.
We got Viktor Orban, who's a problem, right?
Correct.
And what's happening out there. Then you've got Lukashenko to the north. Now, how many Belarusians right now are serving in the Foreign Legion here?
Yeah, I don't.
We don't know.
No, yeah.
We don't know. Thousands, tens of thousands,
Right,
maybe.
right.
These folks will be battle-hardened troops, ready to lead a new revolution.
Correct.
And an emergent democracy can come when Lukashenko is deposed. And Ukraine is uniquely positioned to lead this fight. The reality of the 14 former Soviet states is that they have a shared history, a shared suffering of 70 years under Kremlin communism,
Correct.
right? Thanks to Russification, a shared language, everybody
Right.
speaks Russian,
yes.
right? And there's the opportunity, not just for investments in Ukraine, but for investments in the untapped potential of the entire former Soviet bloc. And what I see, because look at the resource-rich nature of these lands, the uranium deposits, the coal deposits, the clay
titanium,
deposits,
correct.
titanium, even just the clay, right? The clay of eastern Ukraine is a unique iron very low in iron clay that makes the most beautiful white porcelain tiles, especially if you want bigger size porcelain tiles, right? 1/4 of the clay for tiles in the world is mined out here in eastern Ukraine. And those mines have been shut down for a year.
Yeah, or longer. I mean, I know that that.
Longer
Yeah,
now. I
yeah.
apologize. You're
But
absolutely
yeah,
right.
no, a lot of the industry, a lot of the resources, and they've been stolen too.
Oh dear God!
So-
The pilfering of eastern Ukraine and southern Ukraine is a catastrophe, a cultural catastrophe of the worst sort.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. So what you're talking about is Ukraine being the leader in this.
I definitely think that that's the future. Yes.
And that's why the world is looking at Ukraine. That's why the politicians, and that's why even the Western world they're giving they're giving the weapons. I mean, they're giving finance aid. They're helping. They're not jumping in, but they are giving the supplies that Ukraine is able to fight with that makes a difference.
Now you're not wrong, okay, but let's not pretend that it's altruistic.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
Right.
It's not the way I would do to win a war. It's.
Oh no, you'd go on the ground, wouldn't you?
Well, I would go on the
You'd get
ground,
some
but
boots on the ground.
Right. And
yeah.
so there's.
We agree on that point.
Yes. And of course, it's my background. I logistically can see the ground. And I know, when you put it all together, I know how to formulate that, and I know how to put it together, and I know how to execute.
And my big worry as a civilian is that we're just dragging our feet too much, and the Ukrainians are suffering for it.
They are, and that's the sad part of what's happening. But again, I am very thankful. I always try to take the positive from what is happening, even all the negative around us. Even with the missile strikes last night in Kyiv that hit outside of Obolon.
And of course, our prayers go out to all those people.
Yes. So now, have you heard about have you heard the term Ukraine is the breadbasket of Europe?
Oh yeah, sure. Well, that's what I was just going to say.
Okay, so that's,
I was just going to say, right, on the subject of the altruism of the West, right? It is important to recognize that when this genocidal lunatic in Moscow sent 250,000 troops over the border with orders to kill everybody in sight, he also then had the nerve to turn to the rest of the world and say to us, if you interfere, I will F you up. I will cut off your fuel and you will freeze this winter. I will send nuclear bombs and you will fry. And I will cut off the food and there will be famine. There's already famine evolving in Eastern Africa right now because of this.
Correct.
And it's that idea that there could be a person who thinks he can hold the world hostage.
Yeah.
Right? That makes it absolutely essential that all of us do everything that we can to ensure the victory of these people. Yes.
Yeah, so
in my opinion.
No, you're absolutely correct, and I'm absolutely on board with you on that thought process, and we're going. So that's why I'm here. That's why you're here. Mm-hmm. That's why I have you on the show, because you we all play a small role into helping Ukraine into its victory. So now let's talk about this. So you've now this is great. I've also had businesses and have failed, like the 2008 crash.
Well,
okay, so that's.
You know what a failure is? It's evidence that somebody tried to do something.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I never stop. So the 91 crash also hurt me. And now I've never declared bankruptcy. I could have legally declared bankruptcy, but I think more of it's a pride issue for me. So I just bit the bullet and just kind of worked through the process and let the 7 years take its course on its own without doing the bankruptcy.
Dude, I never did either.
Well,
I mean, I went broke. I went broke, but I never declared bankruptcy or sought bankruptcy protection.
Now some of those were circumstantial. Because my concepts and my mindset and everything for the business and how it worked was all sound, but like in the 2008 crash, I mean, hundreds of millions of people really suffered on that one, not just the United States.
October 15th of 2009. I was part of, me and 4,999 other people were the first layoffs that the Microsoft Corporation ever had.
Okay.
Directly because of the crash of 2008.
Yeah.
Yep.
And an interesting thing about the 2008 crash, it actually crashed in 2008, but it was actually prepped in 2006.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's when the banks started faltering, and that's when the bailouts had to happen.
Well, that was right. They gutted Glass-Steagall on us. That had protected the American economy for 70 years.
Yep.
And that was the start of that. And now, of course, we had the Dodd-Frank repeal, which led to this failure of Silicon Valley Bank, and the other one. Credit Suisse now is in trouble. So, I mean, look, we know how it works. You got to keep the gambling separate from the deposits.
Right.
If you put the investment banks together with the deposits, there's going to be a problem.
Correct.
And that's a lesson the whole world can take from our continued failures.
Now, we can look at the current banking system like Blockbuster. It's a collapsed business because what took over? Netflix. So the banking, so people are becoming more electronic. So now you have these new rising banks that are just purely electronic. Like you got Wise. All right. Wise, I actually like Wise. It's a very good banking system. It's international. Their fees are very low for moving money to different currency.
I don't know them.
It used to be Wise something, but they just call it Wise now. But they're the fastest growing. They're $1 trillion bank now. But they're fastest growing. But it's only a digital bank. There's no brick and mortar.
Storefronts.
Yeah, there's no brick and mortar to it at all. But
there's no reason for them.
Right, and so that's what's happening to these banks, the SVB, Wells Fargo's being pressured, all of the big ones, they're all being pressured on there. But again, like you said, they took risks. They took risk by taking advantage of a law that says that a bank only needs to have 25% backing of its funds, and so they can put all the 75% out there. And then if everybody started asking for their money, they can't cover it.
Well, I think it's a little more complex than that, Michael.
It is.
Right?
I like the simplicity of the message.
But the fact that we took out the regulatory stress tests for banks that were valued between $100 million and $250 million guaranteed in the words of the Congressional Budget Office itself, guaranteed the failures that we just saw.
Correct.
And so we understand some basic regulation to keep the system stable. But we keep letting the big money interests gut the laws that keep it stable.
Correct.
And we get these boom and bust cycles. And the last thing that we want to do is visit such a tragedy on the people of Ukraine in the wake of this war. If anything, the Duma here should look at the failures of the American Congress to keep its banking systems shored up and in line, and ensure that those regulations are in place here. I'm so sorry. You don't want me to say that on this program at all. I'm so sorry. But that's definitely my opinion on banking and finance.
Right. And the banking systems here are also have gone through some major troubles.
Oh, I'm sure they have.
The government has actually taken over quite a few of them, like Privat Bank. Now they've allowed privatization of Privat Bank again. But Privat Bank had to get corrupt right at the top. And they arrested the top, the owner and the son. So and because of the corruption, so Privat Bank nearly collapsed completely, but the government took over, and now they've allowed privatization. So there's banking issues here that need to be dealt with as well to do that. Now it isn't the direction I want to go. So
okay,
because what ends up happening.
Can we just touch on corruption for a second?
Not really.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah, because I don't. What I want to do is focus on where Ukraine's going.
Okay.
And corruption, everyone's aware that there's a corruption issue, but those things are being cleaned up. Over the last 11 years, there's been such major changes taking place, and corruption is actually being cleaned up out of Ukraine.
Like Zelensky says, you can't bribe a computer. If we can automate much of these, of things like applications for government contracts, right, where everything gets submitted through the machines, and then there's an impartial system for measuring which is the best offer. You eliminate that. If I don't have to go to the driver's license office and bribe somebody to get my driver's license, if I can do it all online, we eliminate that low-level bureaucratic corruption.
Correct.
And I know that Zelensky is doing that, and I applaud him, and it's a real challenge. And again, it's the way that Ukraine can show a light to these other former Soviet republics that have the same entrenched problem.
Correct.
Because they all suffer it, right?
No, that's true.
Except the Baltic states have done a great job.
Well, yeah, Lithuania has done a fantastic job. So those Baltic states have. Now Ukraine, of course, is entering into the EU. Or at least they've been accepted, and so they're into the accession of the EU.
But that doesn't stop them from forming a cooperative economic and
correct
defense alliance,
one market system, and the defense
others.
alliance. Correct.
Yeah.
Once they're working on that as well. So those things are being played out. Right now, the U.S. did enter with Ukraine in a non-NATO agreement of alliance, which is important. I mean, that was important for part of Ukraine's security and help right now. So those things are going to be put in place. The one market system we're not part of yet, but that's on the tables, and that's being on the talk right now. So there's a lot of push, not just from Ukraine, but from many other countries saying, yeah, it's a good idea to put Ukraine into a one market system, just like Finland. And some of there's like 3 non-EU countries that are in the one market, one market in the one market system. Those also help with the economy dramatically.
Well, because you have to institute the reforms necessary to get into the game.
Yes.
And so once the reforms are instituted and you can get in the game, now all of a sudden everybody says, well, wait a minute. Now I know it's safe to put my money there, right? We're at a critical inflection point. Right now, before the end of the war, the risk is the highest because the war is not over.
Correct.
Once it's over and they're in the common market, well, then you're competing with everybody else.
Yes.
The opportunities are now,
That's exactly right. And
I would argue.
That's a good point, because that's the stress point, though, because that's which as a marketer myself and a businessman and and Andesite Blue is an investment tool. We sell bonds in the UK and then we invest it in Ukraine. So we move the money from UK to Ukraine through Andesite UA, and then we manage the funds and to secure those bonds and to give the returns on it. So so that's part of the deal. So, but we still have to be able to present that presentation and give that security that says, now is the time, because you're positioning yourself in the greatest part of growth and security.
Potential growth and security.
Potential growth and security, correct. Now, Ukraine was already an emerging market. Now, this that has happened has oppressed it. It's oppressed the dollars, or the the hryvnia has oppressed a lot of the business.
It's estimated they're looking at a 46% GDP decline this year.
This year,
46%.
yeah. So it's that is. I mean, that's economically that's very painful.
That's what happens though when you murder 250,000 people.
Correct. Yes, and the businesses are suffering. But now, as you see in Kyiv, businesses are continuing to press forward. They're continuing to service. They're continuing to give goods. They're continuing to work. The factories are still working. They're still producing things in Ukraine. They're still putting they're exporting. So everyone's always looking to modify and looking for ways to continue to do business. I mean that's
Of course.
That's survival.
And these folks hustle.
They do.
They work.
Yeah.
These folks work. There's no doubt about it.
And they're looking, and they don't shirk from it.
If you ask me, Mike, it comes down to a question of faith. Do you have faith in the democratic West and the United States, who's got an economic system second to none, an economic system that has demonstrated it can produce more wealth than any other system ever created in the history of the race, right? If you've got faith in the West, then this is a place to be. There's no doubt about it.
Correct.
If you are worried that Putin is going to nuke Ukraine, because at this point, that's about all he's got left, I would have to ask you, how many of those weapons do you think work in the first place?
And we've had that discussion on here before, and
then does he want to jeopardize his new friendship with his new Chinese masters, who have told him publicly,
correct,
to don't pull out the nukes?
Right.
So I think the odds of that are slim to none, and Slim is out of town.
Correct.
And since that's the only real concern to Ukraine regaining its territorial integrity and reasserting itself as a new galvanized democracy in Europe, I don't think there's very much risk at all.
Correct. And it's
not long term.
That correct. And so we how do we put certain safeties in place? Now we understand that all business, all investments are risk. They're risk related. We look at the bank. How many people lost in the bank?
And they were all invested in T-bills.
Right.
They were right. If never mind, I'm not going to talk about what's his name. I'm not talking about that.
So there's no real safe level, no matter where you're at.
You're not wrong. There's always risk.
Right.
There's always
even
risk.
in real estate. They always said real estate is going to be your best avenue. But we've seen so much volatility in the real estate. We've seen so much up and down on that, and we've seen people lose their shirts on that as well.
And with inflation, you can't even just hold on to cash.
Exactly.
That'll kill you. That'll kill you.
Now that's the number one message of ours is that with inflation going through numbers that we haven't seen for a century. But what we have, we do have history, and we can look at history as kind of the benchmarks because they help us. History does help us, and they also help us to forecast. Forecasting is not guaranteed. It's like forecasting a week down the road for the weather. The temperature isn't going to be exactly the same as you forecasted it to be on that day. And scientists, all they can do is just put everything together, and they say, well, the pattern says that it's going to do this, but we know the change happens, and
we got 22. The United States has 2,200 weather satellites in orbit, and we don't do any better predicting the weather than Benjamin Franklin did.
Correct. Right, because
it's very complex.
Right, and so that's what forecasting is. Okay, there's no guarantee in the forecast, but what you do to help bring peace of mind is you have to take the patterns of history
Yep.
and see where it's going. So we've seen Europe in the pattern of history, and we've seen this absolute expansion and absolute growth and absolute recovery after World War II.
Sure.
And in such a very rapid rate. And so
Yeah.
it went through 10, 15, 20-year growth, and it's still growing.
The same thing will happen here.
And that's for our investors' sake, to turn them to that. So look, this is what's going to be happening here. Ukraine was already emerging market. It was an emerging market where investors were enjoying that and that growth. As a matter of fact, we saw the properties increasing. We saw the flats, selling for higher and higher costs. Now it's in a suppressed mode, so the prices are down again, which brings us to another perfect opportunity for investment. And to secure, we still use in our system, we still use the gold standard, which is through hard assets, knowing that the bond investor, his money is backed by a hard asset, so that if the business does fail, we sell off the asset.
Interesting.
And that way we back the bond. So that gives them the security of knowing that it's not just going to go away in the air. We don't deal with cryptocurrency. We don't deal with currency exchange. We don't deal with the stock market. That's not where the bonds are making their money. We specifically say the bonds are invested in hard assets and income properties in Ukraine, or not just properties, but I mean income businesses. It could be in technologies. It can be in energy sector. It can be in the medical sector. It can be in the agriculture sector. So we're kind of diversifying and taking the sphere of what.
But hard asset.
Hard asset. That is written in our bylaws, and that we cannot go outside of that. If we violate that, we're open to suit. And we don't want that. We really want to give our investors the best place, because they're running out of tools. They're running out of investment tools. And that was not from us. That was as a report on Business News. And I read that report, and it was like, he's absolutely correct, is that the tools for investment and for the sophisticated investors and the accredited investors, they're not the risk takers anymore. When you're young, I used to race motorcycles, superbike.
Imagine my surprise.
And, I don't do that now. I don't drag my knee on the asphalt going around a corner like I used to. And now my sons, they do, and I have a heart attack,
Right.
They're running their wheelies down there at 60, 70, 80 miles an hour, on their...
Why is it so hard to remember what it was like to be 22?
Yeah, it's different when all of a sudden it's your blood and your concern and your care,
Your heart running around outside your body.
I watched my son, his tires were cold, he gunned it on his bike. It didn't get traction. He was came out from there, and he went over, high-sided, down he went. I'm in the car in front of him. My other son's driving, and I look in the rearview mirror, and I see the whole incident unfolding before me, and I'm just like, it's like, stop the car. Dad, I'm trying. I'm going to stop the car. Stop the car now. I don't care. Don't look for a place to stop. Just stop the damn car.
Is that the day your hair went white?
Yeah. And so, I ran out there and saw that he was okay. He got up and everything, picked up his bike, helped him out, get it over off to the side. He looked everything over, looked him over, looked everything over, And so that's youth.
Yep.
But the real money that comes into Ukraine and into any country, and the real money that moves and makes things happen, the developments into rebuilding and the infrastructures and the energy sectors and all of these things, the real money that comes into those are not your young bucks that are riding bulls.
No, that's institutional investors.
Correct. When institutional and
Or
our wealthy individuals.
Individuals.
Yeah, families and wealthy individuals, like families, offices and stuff like that. So and really, even a man whose wealth can be 1, 2, or 3 million, again, he's looking for those things that are going to give him menial, that was the wrong word, a mean return of 6. If he can get 6, 7, 8, he knows that on the average through like UK or US, the economy is usually running, the inflation is usually around 3 to 4%. Now, it's been higher because of everything's going on. But if you look over history again, we just look at that mean level and, 4 and even 5%. And so if he's making 6, 7, and 8%, Now his money is above inflation, and he's not losing; he's gaining. That's a sophisticated investor, and so that's what he's looking at. And so that's the peace of mind that we want to give to our investors when they buy that bond, and that bond is coming over here and it's being secured into an emerging market, in which people know that the best returns and best growth are in emerging markets, and so that.
And I don't mean to take issue with it, Mike, because you're right, and that's certainly the term that everybody would use, emerging market. But the reality is that Ukraine was well established as an emergent market.
Correct.
Before this war began.
Correct. That's
and the
exactly.
war has kicked them back, right? And I think once, again, the Muscovites are removed, that engine of economic growth is going to rev at a very high rate.
Right, and that's exactly correct, and so that brings that security. So now, investing into those things now and those hard assets now, when like I said, the Muscovites have been kicked out. Now you look at the resources and the growth from that point on, and so that's the security. That's the backing. That's the backing of that investment. And not to mention the returns that you're getting throughout, whether it's a passive income. Now, there are many ways to invest. You need a portfolio. You need to have a diverse portfolio anyway. Some of your things are going to be a little bit in the higher that you're going to kind of throw out there because it's kind of mad money, and you just kind of say, someone.
You want to gamble.
You do a little.
And not
gamble.
kid yourself that you're just investing, but you're gambling.
You're right.
Yeah, sure.
And there's a little bit of joy in hitting a royal flush.
Oh, yeah.
How many times have you hit a royal flush in your life?
Oh, I don't gamble.
So,
but I do invest.
right. And I told people, I said, yeah, I invested. In 2008, I lost it all. And I lost more in that than I ever did in playing poker. And
oh, yeah, I bet you did.
But I managed that, too, because I actually learned the skill and the art of it, so that I've been on the circuit. I've been on the WSOP circuit. I've been on the Heartland tour.
Oh, right.
So I've done those and actually enjoy it. But I've hit the royal flush in my career 4 times.
Really?
Which is most people
that's
most people
extraordinary.
Yeah, it is extraordinary. Yeah. But I've hit it 4 times. One time I flopped it, just flat out flopped it.
I always end up with 2 pair and a deuce.
Right. That's the normal hand.
right. That's what I said. Mediocre, Mike. Very mediocre.
95% of your hands are going to be that.
Yeah.
5% is, but we don't live on that. Now, some people do it. Some people are absolute professionals at it. Okay, they've made a career and they've made a profession out of it, and of course, then they got the sponsorship and everything because they've really gotten to the high level of professionalism. But for the average Joe, that's not. And so you just take pocket change. You take pocket money that that just it's gone. I'm going there for the enjoyment of it. I'm going there for the pleasure of it. Yeah, you're going to get the emotional highs and lows. That go with it, but it's still. But investors are the same way when they want to take a little bit. So someone gives them a tip. Says, you know what, I'm willing to take a little bit of risk. They take $25K. Say, let me put it over here. They still in their portfolio. They still have $1 million over in the areas where they want it to be. Just earning that passive income that they've gotten comfortable with. But if that thing hits, it just gives them a little spike and they get their boat. Whatever it is, it's just something that becomes mad money. And so those are there. But overall, in general, smart investors and sophisticated investors. That's not their game. Okay, their game is over here because that's what they've developed. That's what they've become comfortable with, and that's what Ukraine is providing in that growth. Now, there's always a silver lining on nearly every cloud, especially on a single cloud.
Or in some cases, a titanium lining.
Or titanium lining, yes. And the war this last year has put Ukraine in the spotlight in a way that it could not have ever been done before. Even in 2014, it was only there for a little while, but it just kind of faded away, and nobody really thought about it anymore. But this has really put the spotlight on it, and it's brought the world together in support emotionally. From the citizens of the world has come in the defense and the support of Ukraine. I love Ukraine's gratitude toward that, too.
Dude, every single person that you see interviewed, or every single person that I talk to, that I say that I'm an American. It's like the first thing they say.
Thank you.
Yeah, I swear to God.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Never in my life have I experienced such a consistent gratitude from complete strangers.
Yeah, and it's humbling.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting it. And it's humbling, and all I can say is, look, I'm just here to do what I can do. I'm not a hero. I'm not, and I'm not. I just want to help. I have a passion. I have a care. I have a love for Ukraine. I have a daughter, so that gives me, here in Ukraine now, so that even, puts more roots into it. But
well, anybody who carried a gun and protected me in my sleep, Mike, is a hero in one way or to me. So your service is appreciated.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, and thank you for sharing that. But it's still,
I understand. I know. I understand.
And because you're getting the same respect.
Yeah, and I don't deserve it at all because I haven't done anything except pay my taxes and support that those taxes go to support Ukraine.
Correct. But you're here now.
I am, yeah.
You are here now, and you're here to get involved.
I am.
You fall in love with the city.
I have. I love this town.
And you fall in love with the food.
Oh, my God. Outside of Manhattan, where do you get food like this?
Oh, Manhattan's got good food?
Yeah, believe it or not, they do.
No, I believe it. I've just never been to Manhattan, so.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, Mike, I'll take you to Broadway. I'll take you to a show.
Okay.
Next time you're
All
back
right.
in the States, we'll go.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
No, I've heard about some of the kitchens and some of the food there, so it would be fun to do that.
Oh, yeah.
But so you're here, and you've even asked, what NGOs can I get involved with? What can I do to help? How can I, work here? I don't want to be dead weight. I want to be here to support and to bring, to be that little piece that brings victory into Ukraine.
Can I tell you what I'm doing now?
Tell me,
because
yes.
I am very excited about this. I've partnered with a local theater company, the Pro English Theater Company, and we are going to do a theater camp for displaced Ukrainian children that will give them the opportunity to creatively provide an outlet for their experiences over this last year. And that is really very humbling, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to put some weight behind that.
That's fantastic. No, that's really good. And Victoria is the one who put us together. Mm-hmm. So Victoria's in that same group.
She is, yeah.
And that's how. And then she interviewed you on her program. She's a journalist, and she interviewed you, and then she interviewed me, and she says, "Hey, I know a guy I want you to meet." Mm-hmm. She tells me this. I think she said the same thing to you.
Yep.
And that's how we came together through Victoria
in
that group. So that's fantastic. And there's after the war is done, there's going to be a tremendous amount of work in helping with our civilians and our military personnel to calm down, to come down. This PTSD is going to be through the roof, both not just military only, but also civilian.
Outside my apartment building yesterday, a young man, his friends came over. They picked him up to take him to the hospital because he's suffering from these nightly attacks on the city, right? The stress of that. And so there is the opportunity to shine a light on mental health issues and proper self-care at this time and in the aftermath of this trauma.
Correct. Acting is actually a great psychological healer. I mean, it
can be.
It's performing arts actually in general. Mm-hmm. I'm a musician, and you bring
well, you're a sax player.
Saxophone, not sax player.
Okay, sorry.
Sax. I play sax. I play bass. I play clarinet. But still, you break it out, and it just ministers to you. And people enjoy it around you as well. But it does something emotionally and psychologically for you. So that's a great tool for helping people to regain themselves. Acting is one of them. I'm a horrible actor. You give me a script and I screw up. I just can't do scripts. So that's why this show is improv. I don't think about what we're going to talk about. I don't have a script of what it is. I don't have a list of questions for you. I just know you. We've had time to talk, and so kind of dug in there a little bit, and then it's just like, okay, let's open up and see where it will go from there. I can do that. kind of like Joe Rogan, you know.
Right.
That's kind of the podcast that he does, and
Only you seem more grounded than Joe these days.
Joe,
Joe's a little.
yeah, but
I
like
wonder
him,
what's
He's
going on with
yeah.
that guy. Although
It's funny.
his interview with Terrence McKenna and his interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson are two of my favorite all-time interviews.
Okay, yeah.
They really are, dude. Those 3 hours go like
But
nothing.
he's popular. He's
Oh, yeah.
he went viral. So
Yes, he did.
I haven't. I get a few views and a few likes, you know. But
Well,
but-
you're selling security-backed bonds.
Right.
It's a
Yeah,
little
our company-
different, pal.
yeah, a little bit investment. But you know, hey, Joe's a good storyteller and stuff like that, and I'm here to help people make money. You
Right.
know, so not as popular. But anyway,
It's a different world.
But that's, you know, so we have a lot of work ahead of us.
Yes, we do.
You know, even now it's happening. We're getting guys off the line that are completely suffering from the PTSD. I do understand PTSD. I've been diagnosed with it as well as part of my disability that I have. America calls me, I'm half crazy.
Oh.
So.
The half that signed up or the half that got drummed out?
Yeah. So, but you know, it wasn't just being in the military that created the PTSD. There's a lot of other factors that contributed to my PTSD. But I understand it. Now it is low
It's
grade.
real.
Yeah, it is low grade. But there's times that, you know, the littlest thing can cause me to snap, and it's so I understand everything that goes behind it. You know, so I have a compassion for everybody, civilian and militarily, that are coming off of this. You know, I go to Florida
This
and the
nightmare.
thunderstorms, you know, wakes me up.
Oh, boy.
You know, because we were under bombing every day in Kyiv in the beginning of this. I mean, it was just bombs going off every day, just constant. And then the tracer rounds going off into the air, trying to shoot down you know, drones and missiles, and so out my apartment I just watched it. It was just a display of watching, you know, what was going on every night, you know. And
Well, I very thoughtfully watched the Russian missile stockpiles, and when they got low enough that I thought, oh, you can't expend too much more of that, that's when I came. When
Yeah.
Putin started screwing the warheads off of missiles and shooting empty shell casings, I thought, oh, now's about the time.
Yeah, that was a good time to come. Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of went a few directions here today.
Yeah, I'm sorry I hijacked you. I know
no,
you
no,
like to
it's,
have the discussion of like, ooh, your background, blah, blah, blah. But
No,
there's a
it's,
lot more interesting things to talk about, brother.
Well, Ukraine is where's our focus.
Damn right.
You know, and that's so. Yeah, I bring your background into the picture because you're here, and your background has made you who you are. It's formed your personality. It's formed your character. It's formed your disciplines. It's formed your knowledge, and your knowledge is valuable. And so it does tie into Ukraine and why we're here. And I mean, this program is about Ukraine, and it's about not you know, for the whole year now I've tailored it for the humanitarian side, for the military side. I've had military men on here, and we've talked, you know, not specific strategics, but you know, just the help and how the West has really changed the position and given the strength that Ukrainians have. You know, the Stingers, the in-laws, and all of the
Saint
things. that come
Javelin.
up. The javelins, yeah. The new they used to have memes about the new javelin team. You know, the
yeah.
Olympic javelin team.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. It was
Oh,
funny.
no,
It was
I
the
didn't see
funniest thing.
those.
That was early on. That was a year
right.
ago. But it was funny because Ukraine has a new javelin team, you know, and of course they have the javelins in hands, you
Right.
know, and it was pretty cute, you know. It was
That's
fun because they are Ukrainians are very comedic. They are funny people.
Yeah.
They love their jokes.
Yes, they
and
do.
they're very clever. Oh my God, they're so clever.
Yep.
I can't say enough good about Ukraine and the Ukrainians. That's why I live here. It's my home, and it's my passion and love is for Ukraine. So we're going to tie this up right now, and I know anytime I get around a native speaker, English speaker, I know we can go on for hours and hours, but our audience is probably tired of it. So we'll move on. But really, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to Kyiv and contributing and being a part of help. And again, Ukrainians are very thankful. I'm thankful. I'm thankful to know you. I'm thankful to have you as a friend. business-wise, I've got a few endeavors, and you kind of saw one of those, and I'm actually looking forward to your input on that. So I know that you have some things to help, even in business here. So,
But apparently coolers are not a problem.
no, not in Ukraine. Yeah, not in Ukraine. So,
Thanks so
anyway,
much, Mike.
Yeah,
Thank
absolutely.
you so much for
Yeah.
having me.
So, Michael, of course, I'll be seeing you frequently, but we'll get together, have a few beers. But, I want to thank you this evening for joining us. The topic was very diverse, so there was no real focus on it, other than the fact that the growth that is anticipated for Ukraine, the opportunity is now for investors to really look at this and to take advantage of it. You always heard this term, these multi-level marketing companies. Oh, you're in the bottom, you're starting from the bottom, you're going to grow like this. Well, this isn't a multi-level marketing opportunity. This is an actual, real market and a real world setting. And Ukraine is the hub of this, and it is exciting to be here. We still have work to do. With this war that's not over, we still mourn for the losses. We still pray for the success, and we anticipate the victory. And personally, I know that this is right around the corner. Things are coming to a head, and we can see that. And so we're looking forward to that. The celebration of this is going to be equivalent to the Ticker Day parade in New York on Victory Day. When we won both of them on Victory
VE and VJ.
Yeah, so the Pacific and the Eastern campaigns, those victories. So we're going to see that here in Ukraine, and I am just so looking forward to celebrating with you and having that joy and that peace come over the land again. We see blue skies and yellow fields. So again, thank you for joining us. Have a good evening, and Slava Ukraina.